Ina. Hello, Globe community. Nice you could make it. Today we have René Herlitz and Volker Lichtenthaeler here, and they will discuss how the Globe was set up technically, and as well the issues around open source and new trends in learning technology. I have to take a look at the private chat, but it says to me that everything's fine and everyone can hear me. So, René is the brain behind the Globe platform, and Volker is the GIZ head of program. And so we will talk with two experts today. He's the head of program digital learning and virtual collaboration. And yes, we will have some nice discussions today and some presentations too. And to everybody, please, you can post your questions again in the chat. You see it on the left-hand side. And we will follow up on you as usual. Okay, maybe we start right now. Volker, what are learning management systems in general, and what about their significance in today's instructional context? And maybe you know something about current trends and development of technical environments for digital learning. So, could you please give us an introduction?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sibylle, and good afternoon or good morning, good evening, wherever you are out in the world. Here in Germany, it's 4 o'clock now. Nice to have you here, and nice to see that the Globe is alive, our platform. You might remember that I had a webinar before, and we were talking about MOOCs. And I already mentioned also on the Globe, you can see my profile and so on, that at GIZ here in Germany, in development cooperation in the various projects, we have been using educational technology, Edutech, at the end of our title, Edutech for a number of years. Actually, in the early times, it started with CD-ROMs and stuff, but then in 2000 already, we set up the first platform, learning management system at GIZ in order to support our programs with capacity development technology-based. In the beginning, so that's where e-learning, as we call it now, or called it then, started. We said, okay, for successful e-learning, you need, of course, a team that understands what they are doing, the task, and what it is trained for. And of course, you need motivated learners, which was not really a problem for us. Most of our participants are very motivated, but we need to design our learning scenarios and the technology according to their needs and demand. What you also need for successful e-learning is content, high quality content, possibly also multimedia content, so that it's offering added value over existing materials which we use in face-to-face trainings. And last but not least, as it is technology supported learning, mainly based on the internet, we said, okay, you also need a learning management system for the distribution of learning content. And let's have a quick look at the next slide. What is this learning management system? It's a technology, it's a system, a database, a server. It's a system that allows the administration of users of courses, materials. It is also a means of providing content and learning materials, much more. But thirdly, it was tools like for communication and for exchange, for interaction. So that's a learning management system. And over the years, our system has developed, but also the market changed. And this is just a screenshot of browsing the internet yesterday. And there are over 900 learning management systems on the market. And there are more and more still, although some people say, oh, this age of e-learning is over, there's no need anymore for learning management systems because we have the cloud and social media and anything is available at any time and you just pick what you need and create your personal learning environment. But still, it's a big market and it's difficult to find around. What I've seen over the last years that many content management systems are used for learning and as a learning management system, like Drupal, for instance, or WordPress. Both of them are open source tools. In the classical, I would say, market, there's still, as an open source tool, Moodle quite popular. There are others on the market. And institutions like universities in Europe or in the US use a lot of commercial LMS systems. So there are many of them, and we also have our own here at GIZ. We went this, oops, sorry about that. We went the way that we also have a commercial system provided by a company here in Germany, in the south of Germany, but for the needs we identified in our groups, we added and programmed a lot of open source add-ons for these learning environments, virtual learning environments. So that's that it has developed much more into a kind of systems world, because we have also seen over the last years that it's not only e-learning based on a learning management system, but increasingly videos are used, and we have real-time collaboration tools like this one, which we are using right now for the webinar. We have mobile learning solutions, but also increasingly integrating social media and games or gamified solutions. This, for instance, is a screenshot from story-based training. It was a project in Brazil from last year, where we developed a story-based training, online training for a tool in the area of biodiversity. And I like this slide because it shows that in learning, online learning scenarios or technology-based learning, knowledge is of course still important, and learning is important always, but increasingly from the design, cooperation becomes important. And this is also a tendency that is reflected, I think, in the new formats of MOOCs. And a lot of the platforms which are flagged with, and that also applies, I think, to our community globe. As you know, we started earlier this year with a MOOC, a massive open online course, on the issue of digital learning and quality in digital learning. And this has changed now and intended also right from the beginning to be a source as for a platform, for an open platform, providing exchange and tools for the issue of digital learning. And I would call this, the globe, a self-organized learning environment. So going away from the classical e-learning. So don't have so much content anymore, which we provided at the beginning. Instead, a lot of the content came from the users. We do have administration, of course, and we have a provision of tools, but it goes far beyond a traditional learning management system. And about this in the setup of this MOOC, which then became our Globe platform, we emphasized this and we said, okay, it's supposed to be more a CMOOC, communicative, collaborative learning scenario rather than an online lecture or an XMOOC. And so that's reflected also in the design and in the components of the platform we used, of the technology we used. And so we decided deliberately for a WordPress solution instead of going for a classical learning management system, which we also do in other MOOCs, but because this is so far beyond the classic scenario, we then redesign using WordPress. And that leads me to René, our partner in Berlin, and he is from Connective, and they set up according to our needs and in cooperation with us this technical platform and scenario, the virtual space for our MOOC, but now also, and hopefully successful in the future, community and digital learning, the Globe.
Thank you so much.
In a minute, we will learn more. Thank you.
You can still tell us what you wanted to say, your last sentence, Volker.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to say in a minute we will learn more about this from René.
I think we have a nice question from Chamika, because he's asking if the Globe is using a learning management system. And that's the right question for you, René. Maybe you can tell us why did you decide past MOOC and for our current Globe community?
Yes, so that brings me right into the topic I wanted to talk about, the technology that's behind the Globe. And for I'm using Globe, the term now, and will refer to both the MOOC that passed and the Globe right now. For this presentation, I'll just stick to the term Globe. Yes, we decided to use WordPress, as Volker mentioned, and as he already presented, Globe is a learning management system, but only parts of it. So as a learning management system, we're using WordPress. And why did we choose it? Well, the reason behind it is mainly because it's an open source system, and this brings us a lot of advantages when programming, when designing the whole platform. And I want to show you what these advantages are, I want to explain what open source software actually is by giving you an example or two examples of ideas that we had for the Globe and how we implemented them. So I will take you a bit along the development process, and I want to start with a feature request that we had in the beginning. We had done other MOOCs with GRZ before, so we already had like a base version of our platform. Sorry, there's a and now we wanted to have a thing called a like feature. Like everyone knows that from Facebook, but so far the platform that we had been using didn't have such a feature. So as we were using WordPress, what do we do? First of all, we did some research, and this is already one of the great advantages of WordPress, that you have it's a very flexible system that you can extend its functionality using plugins. And there's not only a few plugins, but thousands of them. So usually when you need something, some certain functionality, there's already someone who had needed this before and has published this as a plugin before. So we encountered a plugin called BuddyPress Like. Just to explain you, BuddyPress is a community plugin on top of WordPress, and for this plugin also doesn't feature a like, but we needed one, so this is what we came up with in our research. I'm just hearing that the connection is not so good. Is this the same for everyone, or can you all hear me? Just maybe give me a quick feedback. Okay. Other people are saying that they can hear me well, so it must be on the other end of the connection. So we found this plugin called BuddyPress Like. That's great, and this already brings me to the first freedom that you have with open source software, freedom 0. You know, in computer science, we always like to start counting with 0. And that's the freedom to run the program for any purpose. So I encountered this plugin, and I'm allowed to run it on my computer, or in this case, on a server. But that's only like the first part of the solution. The problem was, okay, we have this plugin. It's giving us the possibility to like, but not everything. There's some missing features. We want not only to like posts that people made, but also not only posts in the activity stream, but also blog posts that people make, and even want something that only our MOOC has, or only Globe has, a beta house and an open house, and also we want to like these documents. But the person who developed the plugin has only limited time, and we need these features now. He has already thought about these features and he wants them. And when we contacted him how much these features are ready, he said, yeah, well, I've started implementing it. It has some bugs, but I'd be happy if you look at it and fix them and use them yourself. So this brings us to the freedom number 1 of open source software. You have the freedom to study how the program works and change it to make it do what you wish. So we can not only run the program, but we can look at the code that's executed on the computer and study how it works and even change it. So the next thing we do is we use this code and then we take some lines out, marked in red here, put some new ones in, marked in green, to fix it, to fix the bugs it had, and to introduce the features that we wanted it to have. So okay, we have these features now, and then they're working on our test server. What is the next step? Well, we don't want it on our server, we wanted to have it on Globe. The next freedom we have with open source software is the freedom to redistribute and make copies so that you can help your neighbor. In this case, our neighbor Volker or his team, and we copied the plugin onto the Globe server so that it could be used there. And as you know, it's working well. You can like beta house documents, you can like open house documents. It's an important feature actually of Globe, because as Volker mentioned, it's a community-based system, and we have this feature called most liked this week. So the community actually decides what content is most important by giving their likes on open house documents, and these are featured on the homepage. And of course, you can like all kinds of things when people get awarded with badges. So this feature is working. but it's working, and we've installed it on Globe. So we have it on Globe, but actually this is a feature that many people are interested in, also the original plugin developer, as we know. So what's so great about open source is that now the whole WordPress community, everyone who wants also to have these features, benefits from it. Here you can see a screenshot from a collaboration platform called GitHub. GitHub is a collaboration platform where developers, open source developers, together work on open source code, on programs, on WordPress plugins, but also on all kinds of open source software. So it can be whole operating systems like Linux, it can be certain programs for certain feature, and in this case WordPress plugins. So the original plugin developer of BuddyPress Like is called Darren Meehan. He has what we call several branches, several different versions of the code. The black line is the one that's public on the WordPress plugin repository, and the green line is actually his development his development branch, what we say. So he's developing new features, and each dot you see he's putting in a new feature. And the purple line is now the interesting line. The purple line is our Globe line. And here we took Freedom 1, we made a copy of his code and then modified it. The green arrow here means that we, again, the changes he made in between, we put into our copy, and then we put in these features. We fixed some bugs. And what happens here is that he is actually taking these features that we built in and these bug fixes and moving them back into the development of the original plugin. So that when you look on the changes that were made to the plugin, you will see that it's changes made by the original plugin author, but then there's changes made by Christoph Herbst, my colleague, who has been very active in the technical development behind Globe. So you'll see that directly changes were made to the code of the plugin, and that in the future, once this development branch will be published again, others can benefit from these changes that we made. Okay, I explained this whole process now against a plugin that we fixed or that we added some features on. But there's other things actually that we don't find a plugin for. And this we can actually, for these plugins, we also want to publish them as open source software. And we want to do this by using Freedom 3, the third or the fourth and last freedom that you have with open source software is that you have the freedom to improve the program and to release your improvements to the public so that the whole community benefits. So our contributions that we make or our plugins that we develop, we also want to publish them as open source. There has already been a lot of questions in the forum on Globe behind this technology. What plugins are we using? What did we develop ourselves? And I've started answering this, but so far only listed what plugins we're using and which ones were developed by us and which ones not. The plugins that were developed by us, they're still not published. And I will show you a bit the reason behind this. And now we will go through the development process again, but now this time with an idea that we didn't find a plugin for so far, so that we at Connective developed this plugin from scratch to release it as open source in the future. So yes, every new plugin starts with an idea. In this case, we had a team meeting in Bonn with Volker's team, And Volker came up with this idea that it would be great to be able to search for experts on Globe, because we have more than 2,000 people registered on the Globe, and not all of them are experts in all fields. So he came up with this idea. We have so many user-generated content. It would be great to actually search for a keyword and then find an expert to this field. And we all thought, okay, this is great. How can we implement this? So from the idea, we together wrote a concept for this expert finder. And the idea behind the expert finder is that it doesn't actually, it's not a search engine that brings up content, but it brings up people. So when you enter a search term, it will find people who have posted related to this term that you're searching for. And it's not so much looking at the quantity, but at the quality of your post. And who's deciding on the quality? Well, that's the users. If a certain content is liked a lot, it will be higher ranked in our search results. And if it's commented a lot, so it's being discussed a lot, it will also be higher ranked. And then, of course, posts that are in the open house have a higher weight than posts in the activity stream, because they're usually longer, and also you have to have a certain expert status to be able to publish in the open house. So there's a whole formula behind this. And from Volker's idea, we translated it into a concept, into a mathematical formula. And from there, we started to code it. So we programmed what is on our code server called a GIZ expert finder. And this expert finder we then installed on the server and tested it. And when you now go to the Globe and search for augmented reality, for example, you'll find that it actually finds experts for you. It returns people that are experts on augmented reality. And for each expert, you'll find three examples of documents that the expert has posted on this topic. So it's ranking Jan Pawlowski the highest because his content was most liked or most discussed when he was talking about augmented reality. But you will also find other people that have worked on the same or published on the same content. Yeah, sorry, on the same search term. And you see it looks not only at open house documents, but also at beta house documents. And it would also look at items in the activity stream, in the forum. So it will look up all content that there is on the Globe and see who's most worked on this. So, sorry. So why is it not released as open source yet? Well, it was developed for a specific purpose to be to run on Globe, but as I showed you before, on Globe we have a certain environment, a certain set of plugins that we are running. For example, this BuddyPress like plugin, and for our expert finder to be useful for anyone, actually it would be nice that you don't need a BuddyPress like plugin and all these plugins that we have on Globe, because you could even, it would be most useful if you could install the expert finder on WordPress without any other plugin. That means the original purpose of WordPress was a blog. So imagine you have a blog with several authors and you want users to be able to find which of the blog authors has most expertise on a certain topic. Then you would be able to use this expert finder, and you would evaluate how much this person has written about this topic and how much it was discussed in the comments. You don't have like features on original WordPress, but it should work this way. So in order to publish it, really, we have to remove some dependencies. Here you see in the settings in the backend, you can see how much weight is going into likes and for the number of likes a user gets. But these kinds of things should not be there when a BuddyPress plugin is not installed. So we right now are depending on other plugins, but we have to remove these dependencies and use them only if these are installed. And we need to add documentation, because a plugin that's not documented is not useful for anyone else. So these are things that, of course, while we were developing Globe, had less priority, because right now we needed it for Globe and not for everyone else, but we want the community in the future to benefit from it. So we will remove these dependencies, add some documentation, and in the future we will be releasing this as open source software. When this will happen, I cannot give you a definite deadline, because, as I said, it's not the highest priority work, but it's ongoing. If you need one of the Globe features for your own learning management system, for your own MOOC, you can already contact us now, and we will give you the plugin as it is. But in the future, and this answers the where question, you will also find it in the WordPress plugin directory, and you can look at the development process and have download development versions that are not fully tested yet on GitHub. So you will find it at the Connective GitHub account. Whenever there's a new plugin that we use in Globe is released, I will announce it on Globe in the forum that we have. There's a forum called Technical Issues on Globe, and in this forum there's a thread on, or forum topic on technology. And if you just click on subscribe on this screenshot, and now it says unsubscribe because I have already subscribed it, but if you click on subscribe here, you will always get an email notification when there's a new topic, a new post on technology, and I will inform you as soon as plugins are available for open source. This was very briefly the open source technology used on Globe. But this whole open source idea is not limited to software. There's a whole movement behind open source, and I cannot go into detail about all of this, but there's movements about open data, open research, open education, open health, open innovation, and so on. And Globe actually not only uses open software, but also has quite a free license when it comes to content. Because when you look into the terms of use of Globe, you will see that it's published under Creative Commons license. What is Creative Commons? Creative Commons is a way that you can easily decide who is allowed to copy your content and who not. And just by simply going to the website and clicking what should be allowed and what not. So the license that Globe is using per default is that it is a Creative Commons license, and you can copy the contents as long as you say that who was the original author. That's what the by here means. And as long as you don't make any derivatives, so that you're not allowed to change the content, and as long as you shared do a share alike, that means that you again publish it under a similar license. One example of Creative Commons is this open source image here. I copied from the internet, and I'm allowed to do this actually without asking the permission of the person who published it, because with the image, the person published the license, and it's published under Creative Commons by share alike license. So all I have to do is say, okay, I'm publishing this slide as Creative Commons as well, and I'm mentioning who this image is from, and his name is Johannes Spielhagen. So I've done all that's required, and I can use this and publish my slide as is. So this is what I would say is a step into open education also. Globe is free for anyone to register, to enter. The content you can copy without having to ask the permission of the individual author, unless otherwise indicated, of course. And the whole platform, the whole features, you will also be able to clone and to use in your own company or organization. Yeah, thank you so much. So far, I've given you a small overview, and now it's time for questions. I already saw some question marks blinking there in the chat, but I'm sure the questions, so maybe Sibylle can help me out there and sort them.
Of course I can. First of all, thank you so much, René. Hats off. Really good work you've done. We love the Globe environment, and participants here, members of the Globe, are writing their favorites, like most liked last week, and so on. And of course, the expert finder. It's really, really great. And there were some questions. Tamika, he asked if you used plugins with costs or free plugins, but as far as I understand, you also developed many plugins. Could you tell us more about it, please?
Yes, actually we used all of the mentioned versions. Most of the plugins we got for free. Okay, the first thing is all of them are open source. All of them are open source, but although all of them are open source, some of them are not published directly by the plugin authors. There's some companies that follow a model that publish open source or that write open source software, but don't publish it directly, but they make you subscribe or pay for it one time, and then you can actually install it on as many servers as you want, because then you have these 4 freedoms of the software that you have. And most people who do this, or most companies who do this, have set different versions of their plugin. One is free, downloadable on the WordPress plugin directory, and the other one you have to pay a certain amount in order to get the source code. But actually, you are allowed to then, once you bought it, publish it for anyone else. So all the plugins that are on Globe, also the paid ones, I can, without having to ask the company who published it, publish myself or publish on the Globe website. And in order to answer the questions, how many were free, how many were paid? Most of them are freely available on the WordPress plugin directory. I think only 1 or 2 are paid versions. So for example, the newsletter plugin, in order they have a free version, but that only supports up to 2,000 users, and we have more than that on Globe, so we have the premium version. But actually, we are also allowed to publish or to publish this premium version as well for download. And then there's, I don't know how many, about 10, around 10 plugins that we programmed ourselves, or that we added some features onto, so that they were free plugins, but they were missing features and we needed some more features.
Okay. Thank you.
René, maybe I can ask you also something. It might be interesting participants to get some understanding of what's WordPress, what are plugins, what are widgets, what's the difference between plugins and widgets, how is it, or how all this relates to each other, and also BuddyPress, what is it, and maybe some words about this.
Okay. First of all, WordPress originally was a software for bloggers. So WordPress is a system that you install on your server, and originally it was for people who wanted to write a blog post. But this quickly evolved into a whole content management system called a CMS. So content management system is a software that you install on your server where you can manage all kinds of content that you want to publish. So it can be used as a blog, or we can use it as a learning management system, as in this case. So the content is learning content, and we are publishing open house documents, beta house documents. So this is what WordPress is, a software for managing content. Plugins are small pieces of software that extend these features of the content management system. So, for example, our Expert Finder that I just mentioned is a plugin that extends this content management system with a search interface to find people who are experts on a certain certain subject by searching through the whole content. That's a plugin. And a widget is these small things. Let's see. I hope you see it somewhere in the screenshot. Yeah. A widget is, let me find a pen, is these things you see here on the side. They don't have to be on the side. Usually they're on the side of the screen. And the chat, for example, is in a widget. The most liked content on Globe is in a widget. Or these are widgets. WordPress by itself brings only a few widgets. For example, a widget where you have a search that you can search content on, or the or a widget that gives you an overview of the blog posts from the last month and things like this. And most plugins bring new widgets to it. So we have, I think it's in an own plugin that we have a most liked plugin that's that we developed ourselves, that's bringing in this new widget to show what's the most liked content of the week. Did this somehow answer your question, or? Oh, you also wanted to know what BuddyPress is. Yes, the last question. Okay, BuddyPress also is a plugin for WordPress, and there's plugins of all sizes. One could say some plugins are really small and just change a tiny bit or introduce a tiny feature to WordPress, and other plugins are huge. And BuddyPress is one of these plugins that is transforming WordPress into a community. So the feature you see on the homepage, the activity stream, and the feature that people are able to publish their profiles, this is all part of BuddyPress. And that you can create groups and follow other people. So this is the plugin BuddyPress that's extending WordPress to this functionality. And then there's even plugins for BuddyPress, you would say. So a lot of plugins are WordPress plugins that are extending the BuddyPress functionality, like this very first plugin I mentioned here, the BuddyPress like plugin that's has the dependency that you have WordPress and BuddyPress installed, and that you also want a like feature.
René, maybe you could also tell us something about the badges.
Yes, we
Okay.
also have a question from Irene, and maybe that fits in here. The badges
Okay.
was another great feature. She says my favorite one is the detective badge. Were these created like the like feature, or are they done differently? As the like
Okay.
feature to like content, or is it different?
Okay, it's let's try to do this without getting too technical. The badges are done by a plugin called Badge OS. This one here. And what this plugin does is give you the ability to publish badges based on some actions that the users do. And what these actions are on Globe, you will see when you look at the badge what you have to do to get it. Socializer badge, detective badge, the one that's for that's I think the one that when you get 4 hidden badges, you get the detective badge because you're an expert in finding hidden badges. And in order to do this, we need certain other plugins, and most of these actually were developed by ourselves. First of all, we need, in order to look what kind of community actions the user does, this badge as community add-on. So the add-ons are also plugins that are add-ons to a certain other plugin. But also we programmed for the badges quite a few plugins ourselves. So for example, this award role add-on is when you reach level 10. These levels are also implemented using this badge system. When you reach level 10, you're allowed to post in the open house, so you become an expert. And this is what our Badge OS award role plugin does. It awards the user a certain role, a certain ability to do new things. More? Can I answer more about this?
Well, I think that's already good explanation. If you're ready, I have another question by Hedda. She's asking, what can you do with a quality chat plugin, for example? And she asked for examples, what you can do with the restrict content and restrict widgets. Maybe you can share some examples here.
Yeah, of course. It's I hope that these things will be interesting for everyone, because it's of course a bit technical what each of these plugins do. Restrict content is basically, as WordPress is a blogging form. Sorry, WordPress is a blogging platform originally. All content that is published on WordPress is public to everyone. Everyone can read it. But we want to have a community, so we want that people actually register to view the content and interact with each other, and this can only be done after a login. So certain content, most content on Globe is actually only visible once you have logged into the platform. So this is this plugin helps us restricting content to users who are logged in or have a certain user level. The same is with restrict widgets. You see different widgets when you're logged out and when you're logged in. When you're logged out, you actually only see a widget to log in. And once you're logged in, you don't see this widget anymore, but you see all the other widgets. One of these widgets is the quality chat, and this is a chat that we programmed that's running in a widget that's using quite new technology that's making it very responsive. Actually, this was a thing that we were struggling a bit right before starting the MOOC, that the open source chats plugins that we found were all not meeting our requirements, and we programmed a new one.
Okay. I have a question about Shamika again. I know that Volker already wrote an answer in the chat, but maybe it would be important to know a little more about it. He asks, what are the advantages of WordPress compared to Moodle? So maybe you could explain after this very technical question again a little, the basics about the different, the CMS, the LMS. What are the differences, and what is the advantage of WordPress?
Okay. First of all, WordPress and Moodle are both open source. So both of them you can fit to any functionality you would like. But the main difference is that the use of WordPress is much more general, because WordPress is as we said before, a content management system, so you can manage all kinds of content. And this can be learning content, but it can also be very other different things. Actually, it's so widely changeable, this functionality, that now more than a quarter of all websites that you see in the internet are running on WordPress. So, and as you can imagine, if more than a quarter all can use WordPress, it can be used for quite different purposes. Moodle is much more specialized. It's a learning management system, and it's only a learning management system. But if you use it for what it is designed for, of course, it's much easier to use Moodle. If you want, for example, in a university environment, where you have courses, you have teachers, you have students, and so on, in this very traditional learning environment, Moodle, of course, has everything out of the box that you need. Whereas WordPress, you will have to yourself decide what kind of plugins do I need, install them, and so on. So it takes quite a bit of knowledge in order to transform WordPress into a learning management system, but then you can match it much more to the requirements that you have. Because, for example, Globe is not a traditional university, as Volker already mentioned. It's much more community-based, and this cannot be easily achieved with Moodle.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. Let's just check the chat. So, Irene was asking how much freedom to make changes. She asked this at the beginning of your presentation, and you talked about freedom grades, and she asked how much freedom to make changes did your neighbor have, and how many changes were possible?
You can make any change that you want. So once it's released on an open source license, and then there's various variations of open source licenses. I think there's more than 100 different licenses. One of the most popular is the GNU public license, which in short GPL, which WordPress is also licensed under. And this license gives you the freedom to bring any change you want to the software. And the only restriction is that you have is once you give this to someone else, you'll also have to publish this as open source again. So you cannot change this, use a plugin, change it, and then not publish it on an open source license.
Okay. Oh, and there now is the core question about the costs. Here it's coming. I just was wondering why don't they ask? But first we have Binyet. What is the importance of shortcodes? And after that, Abdul Haq asks, can I ask about the costs of developing such a website, such a system?
Mm-hmm. The first one is really quite technical again, because to know what a shortcode is, you'll already have to have used WordPress quite a lot, not only as a user, but also a bit as a developer. To answer it briefly, a shortcode is a way of adding functionality into a page at a certain point in the page where you want it. So anyone, for example, we have a map on the participants map, and this you can, if you have the rights to publish pages on Globe as an editor, you can say, okay, I want a map of all users on this page after the third paragraph, and then you write down a certain code, which is called a shortcode, and then you will see a map on this page. Now, the next one was about the costs of developing such websites.
But Volker says he shouldn't ask. So
he shouldn't ask.
Maybe Volker wants to say something about it.
Volker's the only one who can actually answer it. I was going to say it's involving a lot of people, and it's hard probably to give a number to this, because most of this is work input of your team, no? So you will.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's hard to answer this question because it relates to many different things. First of all, it's a question of what you want to achieve, which features do you really need. And secondly, the technology you use. It's not really that open source would be necessarily cheaper. Usually it is, but it really depends on the support you need, the technical support, on the team, on your requirements. So it's hard to say. But setting up a learning environment for a MOOC or a community environment as we have it now from scratch, which is not really from scratch because we built on a WordPress instance, but that involves many developer days. We had 3 developers, I think, René, you and Christoph, and sometimes somebody else, but mainly 2 developers. And of course, we were not working for 5 months or so only on this project, but you spend a lot of time, a lot of developers' days, and also on the support. So in terms of the costs, there's been a mixture of that. But what you need to consider is more the human resources you need for running, for setting it up, for the conceptualization. So we spend a lot of time with the team to think about the design, to think about issues like gamification, like content structure. We came up with all these ideas of the open house and the beta house and the widgets and so on. So that costs a lot of time. You need a team to be able to do that and to have the time that. So it's really hard to say. I know that there are some MOOCs comparable to this, which was the beginning of Globe, the MOOC, which were realized with a budget of 30,000, 50,000 euros. But it's open up to a lot more. I don't know how much Coursera spends in further development of the platform, but they have hundreds of people working for them, and it's really big. But then again, they deal with hundred thousands of participants. There might be also MOOCs for less, but you need to take into consideration the staff you need and how you pay them, and you need also full-time people being involved with this. It's not feasible with 2 or 3 people to come up and run it successfully. And also for the development, I think you need at least a bigger team to program it. But in this case, because René was already quite familiar with WordPress and also Christoph Herbst, Christoph
Herbst, yeah, that's correct.
And so they were able to do it just like that. Let's put it this way. So it also depends on the needs, on the demand, on the multimedia. We did, for instance, we did not spend a lot of money on videos. We did it ourselves here in the office, just like that. Ordered the webinars, but you might also spend a lot of money if you want to produce professionally made videos. All the videos we had on the platform, we just did it with one of our cameras here in the office ourselves.
Okay, thank you. So, and if I have a look at the chat, I see that there are no questions open. I think we could answer all questions. Thank you so much, René. Thank you so much, Volker. And we meet the time, the deadline. It's 5 o'clock in Germany. So let me thank you all. See you again here in the webinar. See you again online. See you in our Globe community. And maybe you develop a digital learning trail or publication and take part in the exchange. Enjoy it. Okay, bye everybody. See you.
Bye. Thank you very much. See you.